Hey yo, what is going on guys? Cash and Clean here, and for today's video I wanted to go over the new mythic gear, or mystic, I keep forgetting whatever it's called, but I wanted to talk about the other things that they did add to the PTS, so I'm going to get into all of that. I'll provide you guys some gameplay as well as some footage of each thing that you're going to want to look out for. And like I have mentioned in my previous video, I'm not at my current setup, so if I sound a little bit different, I'm using a different microphone. I'm on a laptop, and overall the setup I'm using is a little bit scuffed, but we're going to make it work. But let's get into everything. So if you missed out on the PTS, or if you don't know what's going on, I'll leave a link to my first PTS video in the description down below so you guys can check that out. And that basically just goes over everything. They made some minor changes here and there. I'm going to cover that in this video. I did talk about the potential of some new dragons in my last PTS video, and I'll address them in this video as well as some new things that they have added. So just so we're on the same page, I want to go down this list to make sure that you guys know what's going to happen for this update. And if you guys do have questions, please drop it down in the comments down below. I'll be sure to answer that, but let's get straight into this. So I'm sure you guys already know there's a new biome. It's called Uber 12, aka the Long Shade, aka the A-Hole, or D15. Some people call it U15, that's not the actual name, so please don't get that confused. It's actually Uber 12. But the difficulty is 15, so if you really do want to shorten it, just call it D15, and we might have to do that for every single Uber difficulty, so I guess just keep that in mind. So my first video basically just covers it, so every 3 hours the biomes are going to rotate. Each biome are going to have specific plants, you're going to want to farm for those, and the limit is 100. For whatever reason, it just stays in your inventory. You're going to have to deal with that at some point, and if you're a brand new player, if you don't have inventory space, you might have to consider getting more inventory space because it's just going to clutter up your inventory as well as the other adventure stuff that you get. So we'll see if they change that in the future once it actually goes to the live servers. Next up we got the ore. Already talked about all of that stuff, so feel free to check out that video if you need to. And then if we go over here to the outpost, we actually have some newer NPCs, and everything is basically just still the same. All the stuff that you can find normally at those NPCs are still there. There's a tortoise that you can talk to get your keys. All the values are kind of placeholders, so we're not certain on how many credits or cubits or whatever the case may be we'll be able to get the keys or any of the other things in there. And then for the bench, they added some new mount collectibles in there, but all of the values are still placeholders, so hopefully the devs actually stay on our side here and not put up some like ridiculous values like a stack of whatever resource. And speaking of these resources, when it comes down to the flowers, the plants, and the ores, there are mods that could help you out. So there's like a little waypoint or like a recolored version of these. So I'll leave a link to the Alpha Legacy Discord in the description as well. So they have some cool mods there. They have some delve ones as well if you want to check out. We'll get into that in just a second here. And it does look like if you do get these sparkling keys, you're going to get that extra death core if you're doing 5-star dungeons. And if you're doing delves, you want to use that other sparkling key specific to delves. And that'll get you the additional soul of the depths there. Then once you run out of these sparkling keys, you're going to want to use the regular ones. And I have gone over the delve biome, so if you do want to check that out, just check out the first video I made. There are 2 additional mods that have been added to the delve area, so there's an easy to see biomes edited by Crit, and then there's the clams damage reflection warning by Chronicle. You don't have to have those, but they are definitely handy to have if you are going to be participating in this new update. Now moving on from all of that stuff, we do have the new gear. I'm going to put up some screenshots that you can see on the screen. I don't really have like a level 1 version of these weapons, or any of the gear for that matter, but you can just check out the stats and compare them to your current ones. The power rank isn't like a huge jump compared to what we have seen from like Stellar to Crystal for example. Maybe it'll get adjusted in the future, who knows. And I do find it kind of lame that they don't give you like additional stats, whereas from Stellar to Crystal you got an additional 2 I believe, and then going from Crystal to Mystic, it's basically just the same thing but you just get additional stats. So it doesn't really help out too much, but you do get additional light which will help you do more damage in the long run. The unfortunate thing about this Mystic gear is that it does go to level 5. I don't know if they're going to add Mystic level 5 and level 2, all that stuff. But you can tier up your gear all the way to 5, and then whenever they add a new update sometime in the future where they add those levels, then that's just going to be a nightmare to deal with on its own. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about that situation in the comments down below. I am curious on what you guys think. But anyway, let's move on to the next set of things. So there are new NPCs, as we did talk about. So if you go to the little outpost in the new area, the U12 or the D15 area, they added a couple more, and I'm not sure if it's going to be part of a quest line or whatever the case may be there, but so far there's some like placeholder NPCs and some random ones that they added for whatever reason. And in that biome, they made it so the enemies have increased health and damage, so if you're trying to farm there more efficiently, it's going to be a little bit harder, but there will be a bunch of groups farming in this new area, so it should be a little bit more manageable. but in the long run, if you're trying to solo farm, it might be a little bit challenging, especially if you don't have the light. Now, the final thing that I did want to talk about, apart from the dragons, I'll get into that at the end, is the rune crafting bench. Now, they did add a rune anvil. It seems pretty useless for the most part. I don't know if there's actually a decent stat in here. I haven't really looked too much into it. However, there are the essence. If you want to collect the essence, all you have to do is collect the plants for whatever biome you're farming in, go to the outpost there, and then in the bench, once you reach the limit of 100 plants, you'll be able to convert those into the essence of whatever elemental type, and you'll be able to craft them there and to complete the anvil here. Luckily, most of the resources are tradable, and I'm not too sure if there's an actual limit on these, and I do know they could reset these, so there might actually be a limit, but you just need a Soul of the Depth to reset the whole thing. I don't know 100% if you're going to get all of your resources back, so don't quote me on that. But if you're on the PTS, maybe you can test it out. I'm sure somebody already has. You can let me know in the comments down below if you do get your stuff back. I would hope you do. But that makes me think that there is an actual limit on these things. And then going over to the rune crafting bench, nothing too much has changed. They did change the name of the runic ore, which you're going to still find that in the D15 area, the new area. And in the very first tab, you'll see the rune slates, and you're going to need a bunch of those to craft the scrolls, and then it's going to replace your food, so you're going to have a little bit less light, which is a little bit annoying. And when you farm dungeons, you'll be able to get the fragments, and then with the fragments, you'll be able to move further in the tiers. And I already talked about how to get the essence, and then the air is just going to be the previous tab before it. So just make sure you have the actual gem dust, and you'll be able to make some progress with that. And once you finish up, get everything needed, there are 2 tomes at the very end. You can complete those once a week. They're pretty useless apart from the keys, which can be handy, but you're going to be getting a bunch of those regardless. You will be most likely farming in the new area, so you guys can get some fragments to craft the keys. Then lastly, going on to the dragons, if you saw my screenshot in my last video, I did talk about that they added, it wasn't going to be confirmed, but they did actually confirm it. So if you go to the Dragon Crucible, you can go to the Fragments tab here, and you can see that they have the 2 dragons over here. The stats are pretty terrible, but at least it's 2 dragons, more magic find, and overall more power rank. So there's 2 there, and then you have 1 for the hatch dragons. And for the 2 dragons that require the fragments, you can get them from defeating summoned enemies from the Invading Depths obelisk. Now, I'm not entirely sure on what that means. That could be the 5-star dungeon, but I'm sure somebody can correct me in the comments down below on what that actually is from. But I'm pretty sure it's from the 5-star dungeon, but like I said, I could be wrong on that. It does say that it's from the Longshade difficulty, but it could also be the new creatures that spawned in that new area. And the annoying thing about the other dragon is that it looks like you can only get them from greater dragon caches or a dragon effigy. So if you don't have either one, it's going to be a little bit tougher to get. Maybe the golden dragon egg for it could come out, you can buy it for flux, but most likely you're going to have to use a dragon effigy on it, so it's going to be 7,500 credits once that dragon weekly deal comes around. And it is a lot of credits, so you will need a lot of credit pouches, and the prices for those will probably go up as well. I would imagine that they release some kind of pack in the store for this, but who really knows what's going to happen. And like I said, the stats on them are pretty terrible for the most part. And that's basically it for the new update. They're going to add some new styles, which means more mastery, and apart from that, there's nothing else to it. They're probably going to do some minor changes, some bug fixes, and the update is most likely going to drop towards the end of the month, probably early July is my guess, but I could be wrong on that. But anyway, hopefully you guys have enjoyed. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, or if you find yourself coming back, and I will talk to you all later.